Hello everybody and welcome back. This is How to Run Chapter 4, Shadow of War. I'm your Dungeon Master Kelly, you seeing him, and I'm always happy to do these because it is casual Wednesday tonight. If you're watching us live, you can see that we're not in costume, or at least we're in our fake, like our human costumes today, because it is Costume Laundry Day, also known as a How to Run session. I love these things. Where we're going to go around, introduce ourselves, and then thank our sponsor, and then we're going to hop into this fantastic breakdown of Chapter 4. We've got a lot of questions from y'all, and if you're watching live, go ahead and put them in the chat. Thanks to everybody who went and left them on Twitter, on YouTube, in our Discord, and so on. It's lovely to get your questions. Let's go around and start saying hello, starting with Christine.
Hello, I am Christine. I use she, her pronouns, and generally tonight I play Kelara Vingard, our human cleric of Mystical.
All right, over to Chris.
Hello, I'm Godfrey Highvalor, and tonight I will be playing Christopher Blogg, the nerdy guy on channel.
Nice.
Hi.
All right, down to Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin. I use she, her pronouns, and you can usually find me as our lovely kinder swashbuckling rogue Rizira. But tonight I'm just Robin, who's just tired.
Fair. Yeah, it's been a long week. But
Yep.
There's going to be a chill session where we're going to talk about the game. It's going to be wonderful. And you know who else is wonderful? It's Cal.
Hello, it's me, Cal. I use he, him pronouns, and I play Aurontiros. Sorry, I got that Kender roll to the R. That Robin. I do that.
Yeah.
Your accents rub off on me sometimes.
Yeah,
Aurontiros. Is that
That's an
what it is?
ADHD trait as well. Yeah, mirroring.
Is it?
Mm, absolutely.
No, I did it all the
100%.
time.
I went to England for a month, came back with an English accent. I couldn't. Yeah, it just happens.
Yep.
Okay, there we go. I'm learning more about that all the time. My 95% of my ADHD knowledge is from Jen and Kelly. That's a good thing.
I was about to
Thank
say
you.
95% of my traits are ADHD. So yes.
All of it.
When your personality
Yeah,
is
so-
ADHD.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing else.
Nothing else. All right. Did you go? I can't remember now.
Cal, he, him, Aurontiros, elf bard.
Elfbud? All right. I think that's plenty. Over to Jen.
Hi, I'm Jen. I use she, her pronouns. And tonight I will be in my human form, but normally I play our dwarf lunar sorcerer Hazeal Nightgranite, the cursed.
The name of the moon.
It's my new title.
Yep. All right, so
The
folks,
curse.
we're going to be starting our How to Run Chapter 4. Again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and we're going to go over this chapter in depth. We're going to try to stay on this as much as possible. I do want my players' opinions and feelings on the way we went through things, though, because I want to know what you thought was fun and what you thought was, what's the word, hinky? I think that's a word. What did you feel like? We try to run these modules for stream as vanilla as possible while still having fun and coloring outside of the lines where we need to, because we like to present a pretty by the book experience for y'all. But there are some times where we have to change things because they just don't work as written. And that's just the nature of modules, unfortunately. But before we jump in, I have to do a big thank you because Bookwyrm Games decided that they liked us enough to sponsor us for a second month in a row. So Bookwyrm Games is a Vancouver area based dice and gaming manufacturer, proprietor, a purveyor of commodities where you can get some of the best dice on the market. Everything going from acrylic dice to gemstone and wood dice to edible dice, if that's what you're into. They've got great stuff on their website. If you use code DorkTales, it's DorkTales, not DorkTales 2023. We now have an unlimited DorkTales one where you can buy as many as you want, save 10%, and if you order $100 Canadian, which is like 70 US right now, you exchange rate pending, you get free shipping, which you really can't beat that. It's a fantastic deal. And they have something new that I get to show off right now. I was in talks with the proprietor of Bookwyrm, Michael, and talking about how we were both big fans of the World of Darkness. And we really bonded over it. And as a present for our friendship, he has sent me these Amethyst Mage the Ascension dice, which are hard to see on stream because of
They're
how
very
pretty they are.
Gold
I can
on-
feel your inner
gold on
child
amethyst.
squeeing.
There you go. So
Those look-
these are available right now. They're Mage the Ascension themed, legally distinct. You can find them on the website right now. They are live. They are
Sorceress origin. or something
sorceress.
like
Yeah,
that.
the sorceress origin.
So,
It's great.
I will not say what the other ones are specifically, but I'll say they sure look like Vampire the Masquerade, Camarilla, Anarch, and Sabbat dice, and Mage and Technocracy dice, and Wraith and Werewolf dice. Yeah,
The
and they
comparison is uncanny.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I would say they resemble those very much, just with slightly different names for legal purposes. So I strongly suggest, if you're a fan of World of Darkness, go out there and take a look at them. Do note, as you're going in, they are sold in 6 sets, not 10 sets. That is because these are very expensive to make. And a 10 set would be, I think a 10 set would be prohibitive. So you will be getting these in sets of 6. But my God, they're pretty and they roll real well. My first die roll was a 10. I'm not lying. A 10 out of 10. I've got
And
one that likes to
honestly-
roll ones. He's a jerk.
Honestly, like 5d10s and you're good for a game. Really, like you might have to
Yeah.
re-roll some dice, but
And if you have the money, with 10% off to get 2 sets, then you've got 12, which is fantastic because you always lose 1 or 2. Try not to though, because these are literal gemstones.
I was gonna say, like,
they're
no.
so pretty. That's so
I
pretty.
want
My
them
camera.
so bad, but
Do you wanna come
oh
over
my
and roll them?
God, I'm so broke.
I just rolled another
Yes, I'll
10.
roll
I
them.
kid you, I shit you not. Like literally rolled another 10. But anyway,
Stop
go to
using up
Bookwyrm
all your
Games.
tens.
Yeah,
no,
stop using-
These are going to traumatize the players when we come back to Mage the Ascension, the Victorian Age. So thank you so much to Bookwyrm Dice. We're going to do a shout out to you at the end of the stream as well to talk about your quest chests. But that's going to be in a bit. So folks, chapter 4. Chapter 4 of Dragonlance. As we're looking at this, covers basically everything from the moment you make it to Kalaman, basically from the moment you leave Vogler to the moment that you defeat the resurrected Sarlamir. So quite a bit of time. And there's a lot that we should go over here. I'm going to give you just a rough outline first, then we're going to answer some of the questions that the audience has given us. So first of all, let's do this in chunks. There's a city gazetter that starts off the chapter that kind of gives me a bunch of things that I can kind of like show you around, get you to know. I had one question that came up in the chat earlier that said, hey, I noticed that you didn't spend as much time fleshing out Kalaman as you did Vogler. Was that intentional? Yeah, actually it was. I wanted Vogler to feel very intimate. I wanted it to feel like it was your hometown, or it could have been your hometown if you were a traveler. I wanted it to feel like somewhere that you would feel very possessive of. Kalaman, as a city, should feel slightly distant. It should feel welcoming, but like anybody who grew up in a small town, Jen, I know you're on board with this one. Kalaman should feel like the town you go to go to the mall. That's like a 2-hour drive away minimum. You know, I grew up in the
If
middle of
you're
Missouri. If you're lucky, right?
I was gonna say, I grew up in the middle of nowhere too. I feel that.
Yeah, that's true.
5 hours to get to a city. Thank you.
So
Okay,
My,
5
that,
hours.
that wins.
My
that
grad
wins.
class was 4.
2
and,
ferries.
Uphill,
One to two
both
ferries.
ways, in the
5
snow.
hours. Yes. Thank
So-
you.
So basically, I wanted it to feel kind of like it's a welcoming thing in the distance, but it's not yours. But it's where you'll find yourself with your friends now that your allies are out there. And you should feel kind of protective of it. And you kind of, there should be like a little bit of psychic distance, I feel, between the cast and the city. Like it should be not, oh, we'll take care of you, we'll handle everything. It should be a give and take relationship, a quid pro quo, right? Okay, yeah, we'll help your refugees. Like we'll let them in, which is something that a lot of city states would not do. But we need you to work for us to try to stay on top of this. It's a fair agreement. So the game starts off with you guys going through there. You deal with the survivor hardships. We went through, you'll probably remember that the refugees are having these hardships. There were a number of little like randomly generated hardships that we went through. Guy breaks his leg, etc., etc. Then you can deliver Darrett's armor. You can send a delegation to Kalaman to try to beat Bakaris and Bakaris the Younger to the council. The council portion of the book assumes that they're going to make a good deal and you're not going to like whoopee cushion him out of there in embarrassment like you did. So that was fun. I think that you guys did a lot of outside the box thinking with Bakaris, which was fantastic. He's pretty easy to get out of there, but not quite as destroyed as he ended up being. So I thought that was
hard as a DM dealing like with a module specifically? Like I know with homebrew it's a bit, there's a little more flexibility, but if like with doing an actual play, is it a little bit, is it difficult when your players think outside the box?
It can be. It can be depending on what part of the train they're derailing. So with Bakaris, the elder, they assume that with Bakaris the Younger, they assume that you can get him to step aside with like a pretty basic check. And you can try to convince the guard to ignore Bakaris the elder with like a DC 14 check. So it's pretty basic overall. They assume that, but I don't think they assume that you are going to like demolish him the way you did. That did cause a problem later because he ends up taking a contingent of guards. He manages to find a way to work his way into their graces. And that took a little bit of thinking, like, how can I make it so that they would have realistically believed him after you guys demolished him publicly? And money's an easy example that he gave them gifts. Like he managed to smuggle out a good amount of money with him, or made them promises or something like that, right? Like there has to be a logical reason for everything, and or an emotional reason. Yeah.
On the subject of Bakaris, I could see a lot of parties finding ways to get rid of him before, both of them, before permanently, before getting to this stage. How would you have handled that if we had just been like, hey, no, you know what, he's dead, like
let's do a murder. Let's go do a murder.
How would you have handled that?
For one, I'm glad you guys aren't like that. We're gonna talk about this in a little bit. You know what, I'm gonna break into this right now because it's thematic, and that's, you can play this module however you want. I also want to say that as we're diving into this dissection, this is how we run the module. This is not prescribing how you have to do it. You can play this game however you want. Okay, we're a bunch of Dragonlance fans, so we're kind of approaching it like, how would this be written into a Dragonlance book? And sure, there are darker ones, but if you're going with like the Chronicles, everybody's pretty heroic. They're not going to stab somebody in the back in the middle of the night. I mean, Raceland might, and Kelara definitely would, but most of the cast
can hold the weapon up and
right. I was gonna say,
Raceland would have some machination where Karaman would do it, and then be like, later would find out that it was a murder and would freak out. Yeah, that's how it would be. I knew you guys wouldn't. You might rough him up. You might try to challenge him to a duel. You would try to freak him out more than anything because you're trying to play heroes in this. And I've noticed that tone is something that a lot of tables struggle with this module. I'm on a lot of Dragonlance groups, and I like to see what other people are doing in their games. And I kept seeing one or a couple of different things from Vogler where people were like, hey, I ran Vogler and it was so visceral. Like, I had a little content warning here for some very edgy stuff, but like making sure like my players could hear the sound of like children dying and things like that in the background of Vogler, and I'm like, that's a little far. Like, I get the want to make them very wrathful at the dragon army. I think that pushes the tone too far, and I think that depopulating people, dehoming people, I think it is much more effective to take parents away from children, because that is a disempowering feeling, because then somebody has to take care of those kids on the other side. You have to take the kids somewhere safe, and then someone has to take care of the kid, rather than you just have like a vengeance spree, right? And I think that it's very important to watch the tone of your games and make sure that that is the Dragonlance you want to tell. Luckily, y'all are pretty on base with me about this, and don't want to do things that are particularly monstrous or malicious. That said, if you killed both of the Bakarises, I don't think that the module would miss them that much. There are some places where their effects and their presences are strongly felt, but they're, at the end of the day, a clever DM can slide somebody else in. It would be just as easy to slide in, say, not Javik, that's the bunny girl from Witchlight, but if you wanted to have somebody else take control of the contingent that rides off and then has to go get rescued, have Javiv do it, or Javiv do it. Yeah, he's if you don't want to have him be an assassin because it's an optional, they totally let you decide whether or not Javiv is evil or not. I went with yes. But if you decide that he is not evil, he could just be consumed with anger after watching Cudgel go down in combat.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just a hothead, right? Like there are a lot of ways. Yeah.
How much? So it's interesting hearing that they gave you this choice for Javiv.
Yeah. Do you want to hear what they gave you?
Yeah, I'd love to hear
Just
about
before
like
before we get into that, I wanted to just add something to the idea of war and this whole setting we're in, because to me, death in war is easy.
Yes.
Everything else that comes with war is the hard part, and so portraying the hard stuff, the displacement, the all of that stuff packs a bigger punch than simply death.
Right. And I think that when you are looking at some of those consequences, we talked about it on our session 0, that there would be no sexual violence, for example, because it's an easy extreme to add to games that doesn't really benefit. It's like,
also doesn't fit the vibe. This is Dragonlance. This is like 80s action fantasy or Lord of the Rings thing.
Yeah.
That stuff is not in those books and movies. Like, that's just not something they get. That is a definite part of history and an actual part of war, but not in a fantasy setting. It doesn't have to be. And
not in this, at least. Like, it could be in Game of Thrones.
It doesn't have to be at the forefront. It can be like back there where we're not really
paying
seeing
attention.
it necessarily.
The things you show can imply a greater darkness than the things you don't show.
And that's, like I said, it's your table. Everybody at the table is on board for it to be Game of Thrones set on Krynn. Do it. That's great. If your table enjoys that, you are correct in doing that. So don't think that we're saying you're wrong. This is just our table, and this is what we're presenting to the world. We're also doing this through a streaming medium, and anything that we do on camera is on camera. And I'm not necessarily wanting to explore those type of plots.
And Twitch and YouTube might have something to say about that too.
Right. A little bit.
Not like it as much.
So, here are the options for Jayev. Okay, assassination. Jayev is a neutral evil bandit captain who was bought off by the Dragon Army. Becklin sent Jayev to warn the villagers that the defense failed and not to wait for the defenders. And as Jayev fled, he saw Becklin being captured. Becklin and Cudgel orchestrated a retreat from the Dragon Army. And Jayev was sent off, and then Jayev was separated from Vogler's defenders, knows the specifics of her last battle, and recovered her helmet. So those are the options. Like, basically, he was bought off or he wasn't, and then what was his position in the combat, right? I thought it better if he took a bribe, because then I could have him try to assassinate Kelara later for some money, because I feel that being a cleric puts a target on your head. And this, especially a target that's not aligned with the Dragon Queen. Okay, so going through the module, so you meet with the council. They basically are like, Winston Garvey, where they like, hey, there's Preston Garvey. There's another settlement needs your help. type of thing, sending you out on quests. You go meet with the mage, because Wyan is just such a jerk, and I love her. You meet with Darrett. That pretty much goes as planned. Then what happens is you get your first mission. You're sent off to go acquire Rookledust. So you may get out there. There are a number of encounters that can show up during the way. Most of them are non-combat. In fact, they're all non-combat unless you make them combat. But like, you see some bandits going by that are like heading to join up with the army because they pay. And you know what? Regular pay is better than robbing farmers. There is a Kender that is asking about dragons. I combined a couple of them for ease of operations. And then you make it out to Rookledust's workshop. And it is this basically her house, and there is the middle of this like clockwork chaos thing where all of the effects are kind of attacking, and like she's like throwing like robot chickens at people. I created the milkshake cow. That was me.
I knew you did.
That was me being stupid, and you guys.
That had Kelly written all over it.
Yeah, that was not a module. I would have been shocked. I would have been shocked if the module thought of that.
Look, we stayed in character so perfectly for that very odd situation.
Yep. And then Riz had to go and suck on those teats, man.
It brings all the Kender to the yard. Did anybody have any? So then the Fargab, you get the Fargab. Rookledust goes back with you. That part of the module is fine. It's good to know where the robotic dragon breath thing comes from, but I think that a lot of players would probably go, well, why don't you just make a bunch of those for us?
Well, that's what we were trying to do. That's what we did that, right?
Yeah, she is a staunch pacifist and will refuse to do it if she knows what it's going to be used for. That said, I can imagine people using intimidation, coercion, or magic to try to convince her otherwise, which can be difficult for you. So be prepared for that. If she does end up making some, or they manage to convince her with a really high DC on multiple persuasion checks that, hey, wouldn't it be worth like hurting some people to protect a bunch of innocent people? Make it expensive. Maybe she gets like one of those for each gate of Calaman, or it takes a really long time to make.
They take a long time to make, a lot of iron, a lot of moving parts, brass, gizmos. Yeah. Maybe it takes a year to make one.
I mean, maybe give them one. Give them one and say like, I made one real quick, but like, you know, and you can make some fun scenes where people are like, well, if you make one, we can just make a prototype and then other people can make it. But for some reason, if gnomes aren't making it, it doesn't work well. Or it explodes, right?
I mean, you could definitely have the whole like with gun backfiring thing. Like if you roll like 1 to 5, doesn't work, it backfires and explodes in the person's face.
Oh, wait till you hear some of the rules I came up with for Arcos in that game.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's gonna be awful. So then after that, you get her back, and then you get a bunch of little fetch quests. Right? You are given those 3 little minor quests that honestly I was gonna skip, but you guys seemed like you were kind of interested, and I wanted to pad it out as Chris was having his kid. So that was a good little buffer section to add in. And those are ambush the enemy. There's a farm ransacked by 6 hobgoblin mercenaries. This feels very much like a retread of the previous the goblin fight from Rookledust. So it feels a little redundant. Use it if you want to. Try to flavor it a bit more. If anything, this is how you get players access to Red Dragon Army armor for infiltration next session. That is the point of the ambushing the enemy mission. Get them armor to go fight later or do an infiltration stormtrooper style. Next, there's a Draconian blockade ran by Baz Draconians and a Bozak Draconian. They fight to the death. There's a bunch of food there. Basically, they've set up a blockade, and they're keeping food from reaching reaching Calaman. And then finally, there is a missing scouts section where you go hunt down these scouts. They're tied to a tree in the center of a camp. You guys did not do this one because it didn't feel like you'd already done 2 at this point, and that seemed like plenty. You go, you fight a couple of Baz Draconians and a Capac Draconian. And the Capacs are the flying ones that drop things on you. Just so you know, the Baz Draconians are the real basic ones that turn into petrified stone and stone you. And then the Bozak ones are, remind me, because I haven't actually used too many of them. The Bozak ones are ones that you haven't really come up against yet, because they were not at either of the ones that you guys took care of. And then the last one is troops return. And you meet Cudgel and the rest of the troops that survive, or minus Cudgel if Cudgel died in your game. Beyond that, then you get ready for Wheel Watch Outpost, which I think we should dive into in depth. A couple of things before we begin. One of the things that all the players wanted to discuss is horses. Odds are you will have horses in your game. This module is not designed for horses. So the Warhorse rules in 5e are not great. So I want everybody who is running this game to know going into it, horses are going to mess you up. The rules are really basic, they're really simple, and they should be easy to understand, but they're so basic inside of the player's handbook, I find it easy to overcomplicate them in your head because you think they must be more difficult than that. Right? The way it works is a horse, a non-intelligent, a non-sentient mount, you spend half your movement to get on. Then the horse acts simultaneously with you. It has its movement speed. It may, as a bonus action, dash, disengage, or or it can dodge. So you can make it do that thing as basically a free action. So what that means is if you choose to, 15 feet on the horse, 60 foot through a bunch of people using the horse to use the disengage action so you don't get opportunity attacks. Okay. 60 feet, I think its movement speed is 60. So 15 foot, 60 foot, 15 foot to hop off the horse. That's literally what it does. If you don't take the disengage action, you can go 120 feet or so. If you use the dodge action, then the horse is not going to take damage. If you're running through a space, you could decide as a DM whether or not, if the horse takes the disengage action, whether or not that applies to you as the rider, or if it just applies to the horse. It's kind of a shrug. It's whatever you do, be consistent. I would say personally, as just a generalized rule, if someone is riding through a space and the horse is taking disengage, that disengage would definitely work on foot soldiers, but perhaps not on mounted combatants to protect you personally. You're already on an elevated platform. If the horse is trying to dodge, then you're probably safe. Or perhaps it works as the dodge action for you.
Now, question, and this is for me as both a player and a upcoming new DM and a horse girl. The question of, and this is the whole like, this is where it gets into wondering about metagaming, where it's like, okay, if my horse takes the disengage action and runs, does that mean you knowing as the DM, and as a DM, how would you split up your attacks evenly towards the horse and the player? Or like, I'm just curious how that kind of stuff kind of works in the head of like the mind of a DM, because also coming up as my kind of DM thing. Like if you're running through a bunch of people and you're like dividing up if they're going to attack the rider or the horse, I'm always curious what goes in the mind of the DM for that. Because for me as a player, I'm going, well, who, if someone's riding by really fast, who would they actually go after? The horse or the person on the horse is kind of that interesting question.
I would say think about it from a fiction standpoint before a rule standpoint on that one. If you think that a goblin trooper, say like just a goblin foot soldier, would attack the horse first, attack the horse. That said, if the horse is using dodge or disengage, it is a visible thing. The horse is moving and swaying out of the way. It's not just like suddenly has like a little like Mario star blink and it just runs through, right? Like it is a visual thing. The horse is trying to bob and weave. So if the rider is an easier target, and that's what it would look like. Like, it's not like the play or like the antagonist doesn't go, aha, oh no, I don't get an opportunity attack. It's you literally don't have the chance because they move so quickly. But maybe the friend does get an opportunity attack on them because they're not moving that quickly. It's all in the blink of an eye. So it's if it is logical, it's logical. Now, if you can attack both of them, think of what is more in tune to the character. If you are up against a bunch of hobgoblins, they're strategic. They're militaristic. Hobgoblins are a little less so in Dragonlance than in like core D&D. But if you have a bunch of people coming at you on horseback, what you have to ask yourself is, what position are the hobgoblins in? Are they the overwhelming force? Maybe kill the guys and keep the horses then. You don't need that advantage. Right? But if it's a down and out skirmish and those horses are making a big difference, maybe take the horses out. Alternatively, if you're up against people who might be hungry, you kill the rider, you kill the horse, you get food one way or the other. I would also suggest that anybody who gets kicked off of a horse from damage, take some damage, because that hurts.
Yeah, personally, I'd also consider, like, if it's goblins, how tall are goblins truly? And how tall is a warhorse going to be? It's going to be like 18 hands tall. That's freaking huge next to me as a person. If a goblin's only 3 feet tall or something, they ain't reaching the person on it.
How
Unless
tall
they
are
have a spear.
goblins? True.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if
yes, we're a bow.
like,
Yeah.
and that, like,
That's why
taken
spearmen against horses are great.
take into account like
Yeah.
what kind of training, like the intelligence of the monsters, like or things that are fighting them. Like if you're like charging into a bunch of infantrymen who are trained with spears, they're spears in the ground, like probably waiting for that to come in, right? Like
Yeah, thanks. I'm just always curious, 'cause I think I know one of my issues as a player when we were trying to figure out the whole horse debacle was me trying to get in my own metagaming head about putting my horse in danger kind of thing. It was definitely an interesting thing going through my own head for that, because it's so thank you for answering that, because it's a very good insight.
No worries. And so,
Which
and there
I
are
think
ways.
I kind of started that whole thing by being the one who was like, oh, well, there's a random horse near here and I can't do much in a fight because I'm the one helping. I'm going to get on a horse to go save my brother.
And,
Let's make friends with
Riz
the
was one of
horsies.
Riz jumped on a person to stab them. Riz was like one of the first people on a horse, because I was just literally like, I'm going to jump on these people or jump over the fence wall because I'm a fucking kender. Dexterity, bitches.
The thing about horses that you should really be careful of is that they're really easy to steal. They're really profitable to steal, so you have to make sure that you like keep them checked in at the castle. You know, put them in the four seasons, and the rules are really basic, which is frustrating because I can see players looking up warhorse stats and then being like, "Oh, well, my warhorse has a kick attack. Why can't it just use its kick attack?" Well, you're not trained to use the kick attack because they don't address it inside of the mounted combat rules. The warhorse gets to defend itself, but you see the problem here.
I think that's the weird part, because like if you were bad guys, would the warhorses get a thing like the reverse way? Because didn't we get kicked and stuff? But that's them being trained.
But those are soldiers trained with their warhorse. They know how to signal it to do that. We don't know how. We never trained with a warhorse.
This is my fundamental
unless you're an elf
against rules as written, not against Dragonlance and against how we've done it, but against rules as written, because mounted combat rules are stupid.
They're not the best.
You should
throw them out. Make your own.
If you have a mount and you have a trained warhorse, you should be able to use its attack. That is my personal opinion, but Dragonlance doesn't allow it, so that's just how it goes.
So here's the deal. If you want to make mounted combat rules real easy, I would say that if your horse is in a combat and is threatened, then your horse can also use its attack. It can also use opportunity attack rules, especially if something runs behind it. Okay?
Which might be the good guys.
It might be the good guys.
Yeah. And I'd honestly,
probably
like,
goblin.
Let's say I was running, maybe not the Dragonlance module, but like a war scenario with a warhorse and whatnot. I would probably be like, oh, you're not a trained soldier, but yeah, you can use your warhorse's attack. You might have to make a like some sort of ride athletics type check to see if you stay on your freaking horse.
That's why I wanted
that
Rizira to
was-
start in downtime was to like learn how to ride a horse so that maybe she might eventually unlock
Have an attune
using
phase.
those. Yeah,
Attunement, attune to your
exactly.
horse.
Yeah, I would like to
Basically.
attune to my
I
horse.
like that.
I know how to ride,
Yeah.
but I couldn't get on a horse that is trained like a war horse and expect to stay on it while it was kicking and attacking shit. Like,
Yes,
there's
but I
no
think it
freaking way.
Could.
Yeah.
It just
So
would not
horses are
happen.
freaking complicated.
Yup.
There are many. Sorry, what's up, Cal?
Oh, I was gonna say I have an ultimate fix for all of this, so that your players don't want to use the horses. Make it so for them to handle the horse without having to make a check and falling off every single action. Make a feat.
Yeah.
Nobody will want to take a feat just for horses.
That's not true.
Yes.
That
Or
is
if they
not
do,
true.
then they get the reward.
I made a
Or-
feat
but-
for
but
mech
then that one
combat,
or
and
two
Cat bought 3 of
players-
them.
I have actually been considering taking mounted combat.
But then
Yeah,
those
I was looking
players
at I
would
was,
know
I
the
was
rules
looking
for
at
it.
that too. I was looking at that too because then I could because Rizira is like I've been wanting to like jump on and off her as like the horse being like super like the sneaky acrobatic kender was kind of like my thing, but it's like man, using half my movement as a kender who wants to go like in and out, it's like yeah, that doesn't make sense for my character's decision. So it's like yeah, I've also been looking at mountain combated as well for a feat next.
No,
Next
I would
The
say
mounted combatant doesn't help. It doesn't help, really. Like,
it's
if you
not
look
as
at it,
yeah.
it's not
So
as good as we want it to be. That's the problem.
this is the problem. People want real world combat, but it's 5e mechanics, which are really boiled down. And especially coming from previous editions like 3.5 or Pathfinder, where the mounted combat rules are significantly more robust, it is a bit of a letdown. So I don't want to dwell on this too long, but just know your players have access to horses almost immediately, and you will have to understand these basic rules, and you're going to have players that, if you're playing D&D, odds are you've got at least one horse person at your table, or at least one person who likes military combat, okay? You're going to have to explain to them why the horse rules aren't good, and if you agree to house rules, you will have to make sure that they are not going to make your party invincible or the enemy invincible. Okay? This is extra stuff for you to take care of. So just be aware of that going in. We decided to stick to just the basic rules, and I informed the players point blank that going forward, the horses are not going to be with you as much because you're going to have a lot more Wheel Watch Outpost style missions where you have to go in on foot. The players went, okay, and kind of just agreed to it because at a certain point, you have to be honest with them and be like, guys,
I mean,
don't...
it's totally fine. Like, it's just the fact that, like, the scenarios for the side quests were all, like, go 20 miles. And it's like, why the fuck not would we, like...
That's fair.
Take a horse and get there fast, and then we, like, ride up to something in combat. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna just ride into combat because you have a fast speed to get there. So it's like, yeah, it made sense. It's like, yeah, going forward, yeah, if there's no horses, I don't care. It's been fun. It's been cool to like jump on and off horses in combat because that's like very much the like Legolas,
Right.
image
Well,
in
I
my
just
head.
liked it to sit in the back, be high up, and ability to get like GTFO if they started coming at me. Instead of like standing there and having to get closer and closer to combat and have more and more likelihood of becoming the captured damsel.
Right. Anyway, so that's enough about horses right now. There are a lot of things you could do. People in the chat are suggesting, oh, maybe you could buy features from Cavalier. Sure, you could turn that into a feat real easy. You could actually even include it with one of the Dragonlance feats you get at 1st and 4th. Sure, why not? You could. Just be consistent.
Yeah, it's mostly just that there's no feat currently at rules as written that allows you to access the horse's attack while you ride it. That's it.
The
There's no
chat's
feat
told me
that
to-
allows
I
you
think
to do that.
to get
the
off
best
the
thing
dog.
you could do if somebody wants to do that, like with the rules as they are, is get them to take the martial adept feat and give them commander's rally so that they can use their bonus action to give the horse an attack.
There you
The
go.
horse
That's a
counts as an
great
ally?
option.
Sure. Yeah.
There we
Yeah.
go.
That's just
Yeah,
oh,
but
I'm
yeah,
thinking.
it's just for all of the suggestions that are coming in. It's like, yeah, these are great things. These are good
Great
feats.
suggestions.
They're not. Yeah, they're great
They're
suggestions.
not in the book.
They don't allow us to do what we were talking about.
So, but like, write it down, be consistent, make sure your players all follow the same rules. That's all I would suggest. And for the love of for the love of yourself, don't make the rules so complex, because you are going to have to run these things with like 15, 20 combatants at a time sometimes. And if the players create something that is way too good for them, they're going to be surprisingly upset when it's turned on them about half the time. Not always, but about half the time they'll be, well, that's not fair. It's like, well, you've been using it on me, buddy. So long as, make sure that it's equitable at the table.
Always fair. Turnaround is always
Oh
fair.
yeah,
And that's my rule. When you guys ask for a house rule, I'm like, okay, but I get to do it too.
Yeah.
It's like
all the time.
we get upset when we like botch a save and we get double damage, but also botch saves and get double damage. It's great.
It happens.
So
I roll saves way more often than you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Or if you look,
it's still in your
There's more
RPG
mobs than PCs.
where we had a host rule,
Yeah.
and I did stupid number of successes. Kelly, at some point, I expect a opponent in Mage to have a specialty in a sphere and be able to roll stupid.
It's gonna be absolutely gross. Also, the last thing I will say about horses is when you're using animal handling, please remember that the ability mods that are put there are suggestions, not hard and fast rules according to the player's handbook. You can absolutely, it's charisma animal handling or wisdom animal handling. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's wisdom. Or is it charisma?
Wisdom, I believe.
Is it?
No, it's
Either way,
wisdom,
it doesn't
I
matter. You can make it charisma. You can make it dexterity. You can make it strength and animal handling where you're trying to wrestle a pig. Like these you can make it anything you want. And the weirder combinations are always my favorite. I love strength plus arcana to break open a magic seal. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, you should always be able to adjust these. These are not hard and fast. They are just the most general to help players learn the system. And that's in the core book. It's in the player's handbook where it says that you can mod those out. So please have fun with your game. Okay. Let's touch on Wheel Watch Outpost. So Wheel Watch Outpost. You need to get to Wheel Watch Outpost. You need to retake it. Okay. Here is the problem with Wheel Watch Outpost. Okay. The problems with this module and Wheel Watch Outpost are as follows. 1, this is a fortress, meaning that it should be defensible. 2, there are 2 gates, one at the north, one at the south that you need to open. 3, the module assumes that you are going to get into some combat there. In fact, point blank, there is a Dragonelle inside of the stable. This Dragonelle shows up, according to the module is written, when it is dramatic. It also shows up earlier, apparently, if your Kender goes inside the stable to hide from a riot that they've started, and then triggers it half a combat earlier than expected. So thanks very much.
I feel like that was very dramatic.
It was great. It was so much fun. Okay, so
it was funny because you also told us about that. You told us, and I totally had forgotten about that. I was like, I'm gonna go hide in here. Oh shit.
So I didn't tell you there was a Dragonelle in there.
You said, or you said someone. We overheard a conversation about, oh yeah, the commanders down there with their mount or something.
Oh, something like that. Yeah, I guess. I was like, I didn't tell you
too much away.
No, it's
so. So here's the deal. The problems with this are that you've got people on watchtowers basically doing circuits. Okay, so you got to sneak up. I have received so many incredibly pedantic comments on YouTube. And I'm not going to name names, but if you left a pedantic, here's the deal. The people, I received a lot of comments that were like, oh, you made a bunch of mistakes running this. And a lot of people were like, but it was still a lot of fun. Thank you very much for the lot of fun. The mistake that I made when running is I forgot that there's a section that says how easy it is to climb the walls. That's literally it. I skipped that page. Everything else was a conscious choice. For example, did you know that winches exist? Winches are automatic counterweight systems. And the way that this module is written is you're supposed to open one of the gates from the inside. You have to unlock it, and then you use the controls. Now, as written, the controls work as follows. Let's see. The gates, reinforced wooden gates can be opened or closed only by the gate controls nearest them. They are described in the module as portcullises. Not specifically at the gate section, but they are listed as portculli. They're not really gates otherwise, because gates do this for the most part. It's not a drawbridge, because they would list a drawbridge, so it is a portcullis. A portcullis can be a form of gate. So, boom. They're huge objects. Okay, to open the gates, you have to open the gate controls using one of the 3 gate keys or a Thieves' Tools check. Once unlocked, the winch on the controls moves freely. It takes 1 minute to fully open or close the gates. Okay, that can be read one of two ways. Either the winch controls means that they move freely, meaning that you have no problem moving them, and thus spend 1 minute pulling on a crank. Or you can do the thing that is more fun for A, a stream, and B, anyone playing a damn game, where it is an automatic thing like a garage door opener, which I'm not saying garage door openers existed in the fantasy medieval era, but winches sure as hell did. And you basically
counterweights.
Counterweights, they've existed since ancient Greece. I have a classics degree, trust me.
Also,
we've had counterweights.
What player wants to be the one person that sets out the entire fucking combat and is just going
a minute is 10 rounds, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
So
I mean,
long
it's 10 rounds.
in
We didn't even
combat.
go that. We did 30 seconds of game.
Someone
Like-
left me a comment that a little while ago that said they were so pedantic about winches. They said, if you want an example of what winches are like, watch the D&D movie. Meanwhile, at the D&D movie, I literally turned over because there's a winch in there where they pull a lever and the door works. And I go, hey, a winch, huh? Because that's how winches work, guys. But then I had someone try to say that I was wrong because that's how winches work. Guys, that's what happened in the module. Riz went up, pulled a lever, it started going, or actually, because of a counterweight. That was a conscious choice. It's a much more fun way to run your game. Otherwise, you have a player who has to set up the entire combat, and that is not what D&D is about.
And
It's
that
about-
combat was pretty
Rough.
tight
Yeah,
too.
that was.
It was a good combat. It was a
Yeah.
good.
It was
So
great.
That would have been I think that would have been quite a different story if we were down a player.
the
Also,
other major
to
choice
defend
that
Kelly. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
please defend me. I love it. Please.
Oh,
Be my white knight.
Isn't it more interesting if you push the lever one way and it starts opening, and you go off, and maybe an enemy runs up and now pushes it back down? It still only goes up or down by one.
That's what we did. The guy went and
one
pulled the lever
round.
back. And he started going,
Oh, I was so
That's
pissed.
what I
I
mean.
was so
And-
pissed at Kelly that entire thing because the game was going literally nowhere.
I
'cause
loved-
Riz would pull the lever, an enemy would pull the lever. Riz would kill that person, pull the lever.
But I love it. It's
And I-
tug
and
of
I
war
like
at that
that.
point. It's so much fun rather
Isn't
than
that
just
more interesting than
yeah.
than like being at a disadvantage, like sitting there like doing this
Yeah.
while everyone's like taking pot shots at you, and
Yeah.
you lose
Yeah,
your
the
dex
back and forth
modifier
is
to
way more fun.
dodge. That's fun. Yeah.
I
Also
wanted it
just
to be like an action movie.
dangerous.
Like I wanted it to feel like Indiana
was.
Jones. Where it was like
was
dun
such
dun
a
dun
good
dun dun dun.
It was such a
Um,
good combat. Like it was such a long combat, but it went by like that. Like it was such a fun thing.
Here is the other thing, though, that I deliberately changed. Actually, there are two things I deliberately changed beyond this that I suggest you may consider in your own. The first is a definition, and that is a dragonel, which is large dragon on its little write-up. Is it a dragon? Okay. The reason this is important is dragon army soldiers and officers have advantage on all attack rolls when they can see a dragon that is allied to them. Which would mean that the 13, let's see, 8 soldiers plus, I think it's about 13 or 14 in the entire base, all have advantage
like
on all
50.
of their attacks if that dragonel is out. And if that dragonel
And
gets
they do
triggered,
fire,
what's that?
and they did fight like extra fire damage.
And they do extra fire damage. So they have so much extra
Wow.
damage output that they can do if they can see this. My decision was a dragonel does not count as a dragon. Maybe it counts as a dragon to the rider. But to everybody who can see it, that is like saying that I am a member of the wolf tribe. We fight with the strength of the wolf, and whenever I see a wolf that is on my side, I gain advantage from its ferocity. I also gain advantage from poodles and chihuahuas. Like this is the difference. It's not a dragon. A dragonel is to a dragon as a poodle, like a miniature poodle, is to a wolf.
I love
you know,
that.
On
or
the-
a-
on the
Can be
other
pretty
hand-
ferocious though.
It's pretty ferocious.
For
Yeah, oh no,
devil-
totally.
Playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
they did say that this module is supposed to be super rough on the players. So that is a technique to make it super fucking rough on us.
It is. And if you want to do that, that's fine.
It is. Yeah.
That was my choice, was during the combat. I looked at that and I'm like, you know, maybe not. Especially because there are going to be other times where dragons are going to be there and you guys are going to be in a pickle because there's a dragon and these guys are fanatics. The fanaticism of the soldiers is something else that DM should address. This is a side issue because it means that I had somebody who had recently recruited to the cause surrender. They were not a fanatic yet, in my opinion. I rolled randomly on a d20, a high or low check to see what their fanaticism was, and I rolled like a 3 or something like that. So I was like, okay, they're still like not worth dying over. I'll be a prisoner of war. I literally know nothing I can offer you aside from, you know? But at a certain point, the combat goes on so long that it is an executive call as a DM whether or not the few remaining troops are going to fight to the death and draw out the combat to the point where it is no longer fun for the players because everybody is tired. It's been a 6-hour session. It is your job as a dungeon master to monitor the vibe at the table. And if all of your players are still up and there's like 2 of their guys still left who are pretty badly wounded, it is fine to have them surrender. Not everybody fights to the death. Not everybody is like a death cult fanaticist. Or maybe they are. It's your game. Okay. The last change that I made was using one of our house rules, the Sivak Draconian botched an attack roll on Rizira, which meant, or no, that was not it. It was the Sivak Draconian was in combat. The Dragonelle botched. I believe due to silvery barbs, right?
Yes. You were gonna hit me. Or Aurontiros, silvery barbs, the Dragonelle,
Right.
and the Dragonelle botched that silvery barbs.
So
he
here's the
attacked
deal.
Sivak.
A Sivak Draconian, they're the ones that are corrupted silver dragon eggs, okay? Their death throws, because all Draconians have death throws. I chose not to do his death throws because Sivak Draconian death throws are not cool. Like, they're not written well. And they are as follows. When this Draconian is reduced to 0 hit points by a creature that is large or smaller, which would have applied for the Dragonelle, the Draconian crumbles to dust and then forms a spectral shrieking image of the creature that killed it. This lasts for 1 minute. Each of the creatures hostile to the Draconian within 10 feet must succeed a DC 14 Wisdom save or be frightened for 1 minute. The frightened creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of their turn. Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong and misremembering this. In the books, don't they turn, like, shape change into the person that killed them?
Physically. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry.
So basically,
like,
yeah, you're right.
I
It's exactly right.
wrong?
So they changed it. So they take the form of the killer. So they basically, if you kill one, they turn into you for, I think it's 3 days before they crumble to dust. So that anybody who finds the body, you can get this cool scene where somebody goes up and he goes, "We now have the face of the one who killed them." Right? And now they know what you look like and they're going to get you. Right? That's creepy as hell. In this one, its head got eaten. So the body could have turned into, it just didn't really seem like it fit. Right? So I kind of glossed over because I'm like, this would be kind of dumb and weird. I chose not to do it. Also, I hate that write-up. I hate the shrieking ghost form. I think it's dumb. So I chose
you
to...
out of the reality and moves it into, like, there's so much to deal with. Adding a ghost is like, ooh, and now there's a ghost and it looks like Rizira and it has all the same stats. And it's like, oh.
So my changes are that it's now Sivak Draconians are medium-sized creatures if you kill them. So if a medium-sized creature or smaller kills one, they shapeshift into that. It also does it for humanoids. Okay? Large-sized, you know what? If it was a large-sized humanoid or giant, maybe it would work as well, but it's there to act as a deterrent to player characters. Player characters are going to be medium size or small size for the most part. You might have some I can see someone running a game where like a small sized or tiny sized fairy might be played, but that would be kind of weird for Dragonlance. Still could happen. Even Minotaurs are medium sized. So that's
medium
my
is
change
a large
there.
range.
Medium is a very large. Well, and the reason that then 5e you don't have large sized characters for the most part is because then you get the opportunity and reach areas increased.
Oh, because they take up multiple. Right, right.
And yes, Peppermint Warlock, a Rune Knight fighter that can grow to be Trask size. Yes, that definitely could be a case. It would probably just turn into a medium-sized version of them. But that is my change for that. Civic Draconians, they emulate a humanoid form or a medium-sized form if your characters are not humanoids. And then it's just basically like the corpse turns into a carbon copy for purposes of revenge. It doesn't give them the frightened condition, although I can see you doing the frightened condition of it as a creep out factor, but the shrieking ghost is weird. Don't do it. Like, just, I don't like it personally. You might love it. You might think that it's a great thing. Shrieking ghosts. Not my thing. So that is what I changed about this. Do you guys, what was your opinion so far on Wheel Watch and the events that led up to Wheel Watch? I want to get your input.
Sorry, I liked it. I really enjoyed the Wheel Watch fight and how we bet about it. I liked the, like, hey, you know what? We have this plan. Oh no, somebody's doing something not part of the plan. And like, I enjoyed the fight and how it went down. I didn't know that they changed the Civac thing. I'm trying to think about like why they might have done that, and I can see on a more combat focused game that having a direct impact more so than the like the shape changing thing. And that's, but I'm trying to be like, well, you know, is it my nostalgia or whatnot, like just kind of there, but that's part of this thing for me is the nostalgia. So I do like the changes that were made. And yeah, I found that fight was quite challenging as it was already. So I think that it was great.
Cool. I'm glad. I think the changes worked, but did anybody have any questions about like, or any opinions on like the missions before in Kalaman or any of that? Any of that feel weird or that you wanted to comment on? I'm curious.
I mean, like in terms of the whole fleshing out of Kalaman thing and kind of glossing over some of that, it felt to me, and I don't know if this was just a me in character thing or a general vibe, but it was like we needed to be doing things and then we were kind of in town and it was like, you know, we don't really need to be doing town stuff. We need to be doing war stuff. We need to be dealing with this war, right? And just kind of the moving stuff forward, which is why, like, at one point, I think Hazel's just like, I don't know what I'm doing in this town. Like, I want to go do war stuff, right?
Fair.
But I love the outpost fight. It was great.
It was real good. And there's a lot of ways that you can like infiltrate or go up against things, right? So
I'm just liking the world a lot and the world building being done. I think, again, this is where it comes down to the difference between running from a stream and entertainment perspective versus a table thing. I would have loved to like do all of the side missions with this cast at a table, because I think we mesh so much and it's just such a fun group to do this with. I loved the interactions because this is one of the more out of the box thinking groups that we've had. Like, so I think I love the banter and the talking and the way we do stuff, that it's kind of fun. I really enjoyed doing that, and I really enjoyed watching everyone's scenes with was Lord Bakaris was the side quest, right? Yeah, before we got
that was that's the Battle of Steel Springs. So that's immediately after. We haven't got there yet.
Immediately after. Okay. But yes, like doing stuff, I like, yeah, it kind of depends during the performance aspect versus the playing aspect. I think that's the kind of, yeah, it's a hard balance to fit, and I think we did a pretty good job at that. I enjoyed the little side quests personally. I liked doing them because I thought it was very cute. I love the goblins were fun because it's always fun to just murder goblins.
It's always fun to murder goblins. It's unfortunate.
Goblin rights.
Goblin rights and goblin lefts.
I like the solutions that you were allowing. Like I definitely felt that that whole thing, just back to Wheel Watch there was a lot of like, no, you can't do that. There wasn't any no, you can't do that. It was yes, but, or like, yeah, okay, like let that on. Like the I forget what spell it was, but the one that to make the handholds to climb over, like with all the plants on the wall. Like I know that I can't think of the name. Sorry, I'm tired.
Plant growth. I think it's plant growth.
You just had a kid, like, dude. No, you're allowed to be tired.
It doesn't do that. Like it doesn't do that. But you were like, yeah, you know what? Let's like, yeah, you use the spell, do that. Like that's fucking awesome. And I love that kind of stuff because to me that like a lot of the spells they are I do love things being like this does this does this does this, but especially in a medium like this where we're on stream, having the creative thing is really following the rule of cool and allowing like at least some discourse or discussion, allowing things like that. So that is something that like that moment in particular really stood out on me as something that I was just like, yeah, that's fucking awesome.
Well, I think Kelly, you do it where sometimes like to do something maybe out of the box or like slightly off of what the spell actually says, you make an arcana roll. And it's like, yeah, this is something different, but let's see how good you are with your magic to be able to kind of twist what this spell should allow. And I think that's a great solution to doing maybe, okay, I want to tweak the rules as Jen says. I want to insert a little bit of mage into D&D because it's like, yeah, I want to tweak the spell a little bit. How can I do this? And I think it's a very D&D solution to be like, okay, just make a roll and see if you actually have the knowledge of how to twist your own magic to achieve the goal that you want.
Well, and I think there is a certain latitude that needs to be taken with spellcasting because, if, for example, if you can cast Firebolt, it's a cantrip, right? Can you use that to light candles and not? Can you do a tiny Firebolt? Why not? Why can you use it to cook food? Not well, but yes. Can you use it to light a fire?
Not with a lot of precision.
Yeah, right.
But make everything well done, and you're great.
Yeah.
I think part of the thing is that that a lot of the game rules for 5e is in D&D has been for quite a long time, in my opinion, a very combat focused game. So like a lot of the spells and whatnot, like then there are some that are just utility, but there's a vast majority of them are very combat focused, and you let there be non-combat focused ways to use them as just little, like, I mean, it doesn't really affect the game, like, or the balance of the game. If you're like, yeah, you know what, you have got Firebolt, you can light a candle with that, kind of just like a little like whoosh, and do that, and
why not?
So exactly, why not? And it's just cool.
I'm waiting for Aurontiros to use heat metal on a cast iron skillet to make like a fish fry.
You know what's funny? After the way so Kelly's seen the sheets. I'm leaning more into the elf magic than like what is necessarily good. And the speak to plants, speak to animals, plant growth. Those aren't people's most popular spells to choose, right?
You're rocking it.
Fireball does how much? And I'm like looking at Fireball and I'm like, no, plant growth. Right? Because like I've been playing him as someone who values life and is figuring out not everything is like not the world doesn't the world isn't a whole bunch of elves that live forever that like play wistful flute music in the trees and everything's like fun. And a good moment was the no don't kill the Dragonelle. Oh no, like we even with the commander when he had the sword to his neck, and he's like, don't. And he said that very intimidating like thing before he like went down. And when I used talk with animals to talk to the Dragonelle, and the Dragonelle was like, the skies will turn red with the blood of the innocent. And I'm like, oh, I guess evil does exist. Well, okay, maybe we can kill some of these guys. That's fun. It's not mechanically like the best, right? To like hold your turn, to like let them give up. But I mean, I'm trying to play Dragonlance, not D&D. And
right, and there is like a spiritual difference.
Yeah,
there really is.
And it feels like not saying anything like bad against like the system, because the system has to exist so that you feel there are at odds. Otherwise, you're just a bunch of people storytelling. Which we are, but it's more fun to be like, oh, like the elf, you know, makes the ivy grow as if it were as if 3 months in the summer went by in an instant, and then climbs it, right? That's
cool.
Yeah,
that's more.
It's real cool.
That's fun. It's elfy.
Yeah.
So other things that we went through were, we did the battle at Steel Springs. I don't have very many personal notes on the battle at Steel Springs. It's pretty basic. You show up, you fight some guys, you run like hell. The only thing I would suggest for a storytelling perspective is to make it obvious that staying and fighting is dumb, and the goal is not to rush in and kill all the guys. It's to kill the guys that are right there so that you can run away.
I think it's a good tool to use to kind of remind players that running away is always an option, because it's so hard to not just want to power through because you're supposed to be the heroes. So I think that's a very good, like, hey, idiots, you may want to power through and kill all these people. Yeah, exactly.
And then with that, the whole point is getting back and then having the scene with Bakaris. And I don't think that Bakaris was supposed, the way he's written, he's not supposed to be encountered as much as you guys did. You're not supposed to be able to put that much effect into him. But you guys roleplayed it. And that's more important, that the players get a hold of him and start peeling back his layers. And I think that it's important to humanize a bit. He's a stuffy, arrogant noble and may return to being one someday, but I think that you have definitely softened him up a bit by showing some of the wrong action that he has taken. I think it's really important. So give your players a chance to really roleplay with that. Let him beat him up. Darrett will pull them off of him if they do start to like bludgeon him, because that's not the right action according to a Solemnic Knight. So, you know, let him have some fun. Maybe don't let him kill him. Maybe not. Maybe try not to. Besides that,
honestly, everyone did such a good job that like I was like, Rizira was ready to have words, and I was just like, me as a player, I'm like, I don't want. Everything has been done so perfectly and so harshly. I as a player and an actor, I'm like, there's nothing I'm gonna add. And this is like, this was like, y'all had role played so hard. It was amazing. I was just like, okay, Rizira's just gonna be silent because
wasn't
holy
all
crap.
of that more interesting than seeing if we could go and like fight more people in that creek map? Like, right?
Oh, yeah,
another
totally.
interesting thing from that is, oh, the enemies have horses. What would we do in a real, oh, all of these soldiers are hurt or tired or like whatever, let's give them the horses to escape on. Right? And just like little things like that made that, how do we salvage this as best we can, and but not also let more people die. I like that because we're playing like people that are aware of their mortality rather than the DM wouldn't give us an encounter that we can't just smash through.
Yes,
right?
They would. Yes, they would.
Exactly.
That's the point.
We will.
You don't win everything. Sometimes you have to run.
Yeah.
And the one suggestion I have for the battle at Steel Springs is Perhaps instead of the battlefield events occurring at initiative count 0, also have them occur at count 10, because they give you 8 options here, and they're particularly juicy. So combat's going to be over pretty quick if your players are a full cast of 4 or 5. Maybe do 2, because they're more dramatic that way. Chris, did you want to throw something in?
Oh, I actually want to just go back to something really quickly. I think it's so good to add in details like you did with when you said that you wanted them to be a bounty on Kelara's head.
Mhm.
Like, because I know we've been playing it as Aurontiros isn't going to be taking healing magic and stuff, because like this is brand new and it's the god stuff, and
Mhm.
like they've returned, so like that is like a rare thing, and like of course there's going to be a bounty on some other cleric's head that's going to be hunted, and like details like that you add in to customize the game to make it yours and your groups are great, and they're fantastic ways to kind of tie things in and make it more more like personal and more I don't want to say intense,
Immersive?
but more
Immersive?
immersive. Yeah, and so I wanted to point that out again, because I think that was a fantastic thing that you did there.
Thank you.
And if anyone's watching this and they have like just like a little inkling of something like that, even if it's just for one player, do it. Like it's great. At least I think so.
Honestly, I am looking forward to at some point getting held hostage in combat and having to be saved.
I wonder
They're going to get an initial little
Are you
surprise.
a very careful
but-
player? Because I feel like Kelly's getting you. Because Kelara's very like behind things and casting and assesses situations before she moves.
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm a fairly careful player. I tend to try and think my tactics through pretty carefully. And I do tend to take longer range characters until I don't, like Zenata in Netherdeep. That was a fighter, and that is up close and personal. Except for the fact that they're an Echo Knight, so I could send the Echo in, so it'd be about 30 feet away sometimes. But it didn't always. But I'm trying to keep in mind that Kelara's a farm girl until like a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, she's got some experience with death and dying and stuff like that, because you can't live in the country and provide all your own food and be all your own healing and all that sort of stuff in that sort of situation and not be familiar with the life cycle.
Yep.
But she's not necessarily the person she's not used to getting up close and personal with somebody and killing somebody. And she's not used to people wanting to hurt her. Because like for her village, at least she was valuable because she knew how to apply like bandages and medicine and that sort of stuff, right? So
and cook.
Nobody's gonna screw with her and cook.
She's an excellent cook.
So all that sort of stuff. So I figured like she's not very used to this. So I'm trying to play that in that she doesn't dive into combat. She's not a combat character. She's got some stuff, but not a ton.
That's
If
why
you
I brought
don't
it up.
overdo it, being targeted like that makes you feel pretty cool, right? Like you're special. You're an asset, right? And not just because
I'm just looking forward to
you've
getting
taken
held
down more
hostage
party
at
members
some
than I
point.
have.
That's what I mean. It becomes
Dude, 2 more and I'll have the full set.
It becomes interesting because then instead of just enemies coming and get them or like whatever, and you're like exchanging d20s,
It makes them more real.
it makes
gives
it
them
feel
motivation.
more real, especially when you have like I've been playing it kind of like, you know, a person's capable of miracles, right? And but to move on for that real quick before you move on, Kelly, I wanted to talk about like touching moments. And there's been a few that have stuck with me in the game that I feel like a lot of games struggle with letting the players or trying to wrangle the players to do it. Because, you know, a lot just want to fight or dungeon delve or go like replenish their supplies or whatever. And one of them was kind of the very small moment with the child at the river giving Aurontiros the sharp rock that they found. And they were like, hey, give them for me. And another one's the that other kender we found in the that was locked up, and there ended up being a weird, confusing kitchen argument there, which ended up being
great.
a weird miscommunication about Rizira and Aurontiros being betrothed, which he just let.
You are now.
But the biggest one for me is that solemn, like that night after the battle at the creek, right, where Hazeal kind of like spooked Bookwyrm by entering his mind, and I think Godfrey kind of had like a heart to heart with him, and like Robin had said, everyone said everything to him, so she just kind of hung out like with the horses and tended them, and even that was like interesting. And then I tried to do something about Aurontiros just playing, you know, the Song of Rest, and I wrote up a little thing for that while I was waiting, while I was listening to everyone else, right? And Kelara like tending, and everyone doing a little bit something different felt very like, man, I think everybody did such a good job, and Kelly letting that happen and showing that side of Bookwyrm, because he's still human.
Well, the thing about his backstory is, if you look at him, everything he has ever done has been for his son and to cover up for his son's mistakes. So even if his son is a complete screw up and that's the way he thinks of him, there is going to be that whole like, there's that attachment, right? You know, just because your dog craps on the rug constantly doesn't mean you don't love your dog. Same thing with this kid, right? And I think that that's probably a great way to think of him, because he's a total screw up. And the fact that he just went out and, you know, died, as far as he knows, like, that's an inroad. And you should definitely, like, he shouldn't just be, you know, a boisterous noble at that point. And I think that role play was really important, and you guys did a fantastic job. Yeah, I think those touching moments are really important. But
yeah, I liked it.
My favorite part of the game was when we got into the stuff with Lord Soth, which we're going to touch on, as well as viewer questions, right after this quick break. So folks, don't go anywhere. We are going to be right back. Hello, everybody. We're back. All right, so let's jump into this. So once you're back at Kalaman, we're going to jump into the Lord's Arrival. A couple of things about this. You made it back in to Kalaman proper, and as you head in, you see that there are a pair of knights there that are actually whites. They're white knights. It's one of those times where I wish that they had a map for the courtyard, since this is a combat where a bit of maneuvering could be useful, but there is no map there. I thought it was okay otherwise. I allowed Hazeal to use Dispel Magic to unveil their illusion. I don't see why not. It's a high-level spell that disrupts magic, and it was cinematic and cool. And then inside of the Council Massacre with Caradoc. I enjoyed that. I also want to say, Robin, great job playing up demented Rizira. Hopefully, if you're running this at home, your players will have the opportunity to do that as well.
Any chance to sass against my fellow PCs? Oh, of course. I am a sassy bitch.
So scary.
He's pretty easy to beat.
Blogg sound is out again.
Is it Blogg still having sound issues?
Yeah.
Yeah. It kicked him off again.
Huh. I wonder what I can do. Can I do anything to help? Let's find out. Boop.
I know. It also sounds like Ping has been hijacking some sound, because now Robin sounds really loud to me anyway.
Oh no, I'll push mic away maybe.
Oh, you're quiet again, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, never mind.
The only
Maybe
thing
you
I
just
can
got
think
excited.
of is
Chris, you're
potentially,
audible
does
again
Blogg
now.
have
Oh, well, no,
No.
you're not.
No, he's not. No, his screen isn't lighting up.
Something that has the ability to use a mic. Because that sometimes happens if you don't have a specific setting clicked in Windows. The new thing will hijack and force only it to use your mic.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That used to
explains
happen
why
to me
Discord
all the
never
time.
works.
When I was doing like Discord and streaming with Amy. It
Chris?
absolutely destroyed my mic.
One thing, are you using your computer or Caitlin's computer? Okay. And her mic is not plugged into it, right? Okay. Just wanted to be sure about that. All right, so let's so Chris is gonna be a little quiet for a while, but we're gonna hop back in and we're gonna go over this. All of you had a pretty decent time with the raided catacombs bit and fighting Caradoc. I don't think there's too much to talk about there.
Can I just say the knights? I don't know how much, because it's Caradoc. The necrotic effects in both the knights, the Skelly Knights, and Caradoc being like, oh yeah, my max hit HP went down until my character rests. Still technically haven't rested yet, so that is a bit rough. And the unable to heal till the next round is there's some rough, cool like necrotic stuff going on in that whole sequence of
they're
games.
pretty great. They're just basic
It's
whites.
pretty awesome.
Though if I hadn't been too far away, what I would have done was just spare the dying, because that doesn't technically heal. All it does is stabilize. There's no healing involved. There's no hit points involved. So I was like, maybe that will get around that.
That's interesting.
Right.
That's a good thing.
Okay. Hello, Chris.
Testing.
Hi. How's it
There
going?
we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe just don't. Were you
Doesn't
muting
like my
before?
headphones.
Was it your headphones that
Those
was
are
doing it?
headphones.
Yeah, so I've got the. Hopefully, it's not picking up you guys talking, but
No, not at the moment.
okay, great.
Oh, a tiny bit there.
Tiny bit there, but that's fine. Just it's is a talk episode, so it should be good.
Yeah.
So good to know. We'll just have
It
to
is
get you
what
some
it
new
is.
headphones. Actually, if you yeah. Let me know what kind you like. And we'll see what we can do. Okay, so I mean, there's not much to talk about in the raided catacombs, aside from the berserker axe. Be aware of that, especially if your sorcerer ends up with it. It's going to cause some problems, but not as many problems as if, say, Godfrey had taken it.
You know,
Can
it's not
I
a problem
just say-
because we've got Kelara. Kelara's the solution.
Yeah, it's true. But can I just say the fact that I managed to do that one attack because of how many hit points you hit me with?
Oh
me
my
for it.
God, dropping you to
That
one.
was beautiful.
Oh, it was so good. Like, it was such a dramatic
good.
scene. The catacombs here, honestly, going through and having the visions and having like the spectral elements. Oh, God, I love this type of dungeon. It's not big. Like, that's the entire dungeon, guys,
Yeah.
is that big.
It's nice. It's a nice dungeon.
It's a nice
But
dungeon.
also feels like an actual like place where heroes were buried rather than just like a wizard put spikes in the wall here. Right? Like
Man, I would be such a shit wizard. I would like go to like grab a pickle in the middle of the night and get skewered by my own trap that I forgot to set off.
right? Or like walk into the gelatinous cube. that you
Oh,
left-
the cube.
Oh, right, I left it out in the hallway. No. I
Dungeon
forgot to put
Roomba.
it in its pen.
Dungeon Roomba.
Dungeon Roomba. Oh, God.
That's if you ever go into a dungeon and everything is completely clean in one hallway,
There's
there's
no
a gelatinous
moss.
cube in there. They're dungeon Roombas.
Dungeon Roombas.
I'll
Does
remember
anybody have
that
any
if I
questions,
ever
comments,
run.
concerns about the raided catacombs and fighting Lord Knight Sarlamir?
I thought that. Oh yeah, the whole like GM versus like player input thing and bouncing ideas off of each other, and I don't think it's like meta to like guide your players or the ST to be all like, oh, would the character do this or like whatever? Because at some point I felt like really useless. And I was like, I guess I'm just going to shoot this horse with a bow. And you were like, or would Aurontiros, would they? Or would Aurontiros try to like speak with it? And I'm like stopping and I'm thinking, and I was pulled into D&D mode where I'm like, oh, guess I roll a D20 and just attack because like I'm just the bard or whatever. And I was like, no, it might like stomp me in the next round, but no. If anyone's going to talk to these spectral horses,
and they specifically give you the horse charm if you talk to them. They were also supposed to give it to you. They're supposed to immediately bow to you if you're wearing Solamnic armor. And I'm like, well, the only person in Solamnic armor is the NPC that you dragged along. I'm not going to give him a charm. This is dumb. I'm going to say that they just ran right past him. So if you're watching the game and you're like, hey, how'd they occupy his space? Because he didn't count to them. Because he was a knight. They ignored him.
Also, I love that there was a reward for doing that in that kind of a way. Like that was nice to see.
Right.
Otherwise, we just kill them and we never would have known. And we would have been like, oh, well, that sucks.
There are a lot of modules are written that way. Sarlamir was a fight that I really wanted to do, for one, because I had that banger of a song saved. Dance of Death is such a good song. But as you're going into this, Sarlamir is one of those guys where it's like, I'm sorry, I've got to kill you. Like, I don't have a choice. I was a dick in life, but I'm not that big of a dick in death. So he's fighting you. As you're defeating him, the module actually makes sure to state that even if you kill him, he imparts the last bit of information on where the plot has to go with his last breath. And I love that. Because there are so many times I was running Rise of the Rune Lords way back when, and there's this one moment where there's like the head of a statue comes to life and starts being like, I shall meet you in the place of, and the second it started, Amy, who's been in many of her, blew the head up with like a 4th level spell going, ah! And I'm like, well, now you guys don't know where to go.
So well.
What?
I can visualize that very clearly.
Yeah, that's a very,
very good rendition
of Amy. Yep, that was very good.
Yeah. So I think that having these type of ways to get you back on the plot are super important. Also, when you run this game yourself, watch your players when you mention that in the next room is a Dragonlance. And you just watched everybody's eyebrows, like, and the chat started going, ooh, turning into Andy
we've been joking this entire time about, is it a Dragonlance? Is it a Dragonlance? So to get to hear Dragonlance get actually dropped this early is like,
is it though?
Well, and there I was in our private chat though going, yeah, but it failed. Do we actually want the one that didn't work?
It failed because it was used illegally. It was used unlawfully. It needs to be cleansed.
He didn't have a lance license.
Yeah.
You need to get your lance license.
He didn't have his carry permit.
I was kind of like, do we really need this? It doesn't work. Didn't do anything.
Well, that's a good thing to role play. Being like, well, it didn't work for this guy.
Yeah. And as for, there's a question in the chat right now asking if the companions will make an appearance. I don't know, man. I'm not spoiling anything. These players have no idea what's coming next. This is only retroactive spoilers to things they've seen. Wiggle eyebrows. So I love Sarlamir. I love the fight. I love how vicious it gets to be, but also that it's one of the better balanced combats in the game because your players should be slightly sapped from the previous encounters. And it's just vicious enough that you might kill one or two of them. Just enough. Just one or two. It probably won't do a party wipe unless the dice are really against them, but it's enough that it definitely keeps them on their toes.
Having that ticking clock, because like the first, like you basically do like 2 big fights. And like Kelara had to bring Riz up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, man, all I want to do is a short rest right now. Like, all I want to do is get some HP before going to a dungeon. And it's just like, but I can see why the, like, A, the need for speed for plot wise, and also just B, to make it an actually, like, scary fight.
My only complaint is having Lidara or Leandra, I can't remember her full name. Anyway, the elf emerge out of the shadows and be like, by the way, you gotta go now. Well, it's a little hackneyed. Lidara.
It is, and it feels almost like the person that wrote their OC into it. Like that was their first Dragonlance character from
they
1988.
They didn't. You should. Let's be fair, Jen. You know who she is. You failed the role, but you know out of character that she's probably one of the elf maidens. Like that's not a spoiler. She's probably good.
I didn't know that, but
God damn it.
Spoilers, I mean, I still don't know what you're talking about. So.
Okay, cool. Well,
I know.
Yeah.
She definitely acts like a ghost. So,
but that's also kind of.
Well, no, we did put that together in game.
Yeah. Okay.
That I think we kind of all talked about it. That it was, the character didn't put it together, but that one looks awful familiar.
Yeah, I gave some hints, but
it fits the 80s, like a prophet appears and points down the stairwell with a finger and says, "Time is of the essence. Go, heroes!" Before disappearing in a magical wisp.
True, but I might have actually believed that more if it had been random hologram ghost type thing than
if
this
it had been a
character we
knight
met previously. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact they have her show up once before is a little weird. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go perform at this bar and like say goodbye to your friend because I'm here for some reason because of Ispen. Goodbye."
Wait, she's a ghost.
Oh.
Or is she a ghost? Maybe she's just Batman and she just vanishes when you're not looking at her.
I assumed she
honestly,
was just
that's
like
what
Batman.
I was thinking. I was thinking she was a
She's probably
wizard,
Batman
like,
then. She's Batman.
teleporting
Lidara is Batman. Confirmed.
See, I figured she could just like shadow
I can't
step
wait
or
for
something.
Rizira to do that to I can't wait for Rizira to do that.
Oh my god, that
to
fucking cloak. That
the
fucking
blue-
cloak.
to do that to the blue elf, and then the blue elf will be like, "So that's how that feels."
Nice.
Huh.
All right. So let's power through some of our questions. So I had a hell of a lot of fun with this. I'm looking forward to going into the
One
Northern
thing.
Wastes.
Sorry, just because Blogg's silenced. He's made a comment in our chat. I just want to make sure we share it.
What is it?
So he just wanted to mention that something he likes is how much character you have to the ghost and that you let the PC who got possessed run the character with that personality. Whereas often possession in a lot of games tends to just be hand over the character.
I think it's so much more fun to turn a possession over and be like, congrats, you're rolling against your friends now. That's so much more fun because it allows you to get malicious. It allows you to be like,
Well, it is because I did it in rhyme and it was great trying to like role play not being possessed and yet being possessed.
Good one, Blogg.
yeah, that's real good.
Yep.
It allows you to take out
so
some
fun.
aggression on your friends in a fun way where you're like, and you have complete deniability, right? You're like, oh, I'm sorry I crit you.
Well, on the comment of when Godfrey hit Riz and was like, go down, and being able to, because Riz wouldn't say this necessarily to Godfrey in person, but Robin,
Caradoc would.
yeah, Cardog would be like, I thought you want Kelara to do that. Is just like, it was just like a chef's kiss, and Kelly was like about to write that for me to say that, and it was like, no,
I was
no,
halfway through
not,
typing
bro.
it, actually.
I
I was like,
know.
And honestly, I feel like Robin was one of the best ones to get possessed because she's good at that. I wouldn't have that half the time. I would not be that good at that unless it was very
was a
good.
fantastic scene.
Unless it was very good, clear setup for me. Not nearly that good.
So
I think Godfrey or Rizira would have been, because they'd 180 so hard. Because the Kender's loyal, the Kender's friendly, the Kender's not afraid. They look at everything with whimsy, and Godfrey is so there's right or wrong. You know, like if my life can save anyone else's, then I've spent it well, kind of thing. And so for Rizira or Godfrey to have turned in that moment. I was kind of waiting for that.
So good. All right.
And thus bore the meme of Kelara having the TPK. Die, bitch!
Yep, die, bitch! And thank you so much to your partner for doing the art for that. You can buy the Die Bitch t-shirts on our TeePublic right now.
Wait,
everybody go to
not
TeePublic and
knowing-
look at them at very least.
For anyone not knowing what that's in reference to, on the Discord, there's a Dragonlance spoilers channel in the Dorktales Discord, and my partner will do memes and do some art up while she's watching like the stream, like on the iPad Procreate, and yeah, she immediately, like so fast, had come out with those like before we were even done streaming. And yeah, there's a couple now of Kelara yelling "Die bitch" when she's had
Rizira and Hazeal
against
take down some teammates.
I feel like now though I really need to take down Godfrey and Aurontiros so that I can get a 4-square of it for myself, and only I get that one. Like I need the 4-square of all 4 memes then.
Yeah, I need them all in sticker format so that I can just make like a sticker collage.
I almost bought the stickers. I was like, oh, they're on sale.
I'm gonna get those shirts at some point.
That's
or at least
great.
one of them.
Yeah, I've put them both in the chat so people can go and see, but it's just like it was such a funny thing from like, and again, it's a thing you get to allow for like party infighting that's just like, yeah, it's what needs to happen.
It's funny because it's an exaggeration too, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
like Kelara like has a tear in one eye.
Kelara was
like, I have to do this, right? Meanwhile, in the little comic, it's like she's been waiting for the day to take them down a notch.
Yeah, the eyebrows, as Blogg said.
It's pretty great. It's pretty great. All right, folks, let's head into your your viewer questions, and let's bounce into it right now. So I'll start at the bottom, work my way up. GM's Workshop asks, did you tie it back to the adventure of the Gnome Flinger to sort of create a through line to the creators? I think the question is asking whether or not the Gnome Flinger and Rookledust are the same person. No, they're not. They're separate people. The Gnome Flinger was by the non-binary gnome that exists inside of Vogler back in the day. To my knowledge, let's see. John Overholt asks, in the episode you asked for questions about how to play Chapter 4, how did you cover the management of spell slots, hit points, and rests when a continuous story takes place over multiple sessions? Should you warn the players? I do warn the players, generally, that if it's going to be too much of a slog, and I think it might be dangerous, I might kind of hint like, hey, slow down a little bit.
You made us take that rest between when we're coming back from the outpost. You made us take that rest.
Yeah, so that's a good place to enforce it, where it's like, hey, we need, especially at the end of the outpost, where you can say like, hey, it would be, you guys need to rest now that you're here. Alternatively, like, you know, have it be an order, or say that we could use the extra people to make sure that nobody comes in here tonight. So, you know, even though you're elites, so give us a little bit of extra manpower, something like that. Like, enforce that. There is the rest after the Battle of Steel Springs, which should give you enough time to rest up. And you're saying that you already imagine your players trying to push back against entering the tomb and insisting on a long rest first. Have the flames of the cataclysm start leaking out into the castle. They don't do any damage, but man, the players might not know that. Have the place start shaking as Lord Soth is like burrowing through the walls like Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, like
I was gonna say some shaking for burrowing is definitely a good thing. Like we were a little bit hesitant. Like, and you definitely gave us some hints of like, yeah, guys, you need to get going. It's a time crunch kind of thing that we were able to pick up and agreed with, because we like trust your things as a DM. But like, if your players are having a bit of pushback for that, yeah, have something happen that's like, you may want to get down there because a long rest may not happen. The castle may be gone, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, to touch sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to go on to the next question, so go on.
Oh, yeah, very quickly, for anyone that seemed confused or paying attention in character versus out of character, blah, blah. I like to think I'm a little bit smarter, not as clever, but my int is higher than Aurontiros and my strength is. The rest is lower than his. But the blue, because this has already happened, we can talk about it. The blue elf, pretty sure that was supposed to be the ghost of Lord Sauce's wife during that whole remarrying thing.
Yeah, or there were a couple of elves in the vision. Could be any of those elves.
Yeah, a couple elves in the vision.
And
so the way I was the way I was trying to role play Aurontiros coming to the information was like, oh, okay, right, the like leaving the wife after the other one like died, and like there's an elf involved, and that
now
kind
I'm
of
on
thing.
the shelf.
And now they're on the shelf.
Yeah. All right, so going through, Cranect asks, any tips for introducing an arcane cleric? I didn't find anything saying the moons couldn't have a cleric. I mean, they can. Generally, those are wizards. Like in the lore, generally it's just you are a wizard of that moon. You could totally do that. Give them access to some divine spells. I would suggest a divine soul sorcerer, potentially, because then you get both lists.
I was going to say, you can actually, because if you do rules as written lunar sorcerer, you get access to divine spells. You get lesser restoration. You get a couple of things there that I didn't take because I wanted to go, lore based. But
yeah, you totally could. I would say that just in the background, don't have them get healing magic until the gods come back. But magic,
they're back now. So am I. Yay.
Yeah. JView asks, I have a question regarding the contraption cannon dragon thingy. A number of them have seen it in action. Would you allow that information as a dungeon master to be transferred to other applications once they reach friendly villages that are going to have to withstand a coming onslaught? Sure. If the players are smart enough, and if you want to bolster it with some intelligence rolls to see if they could figure out exactly what steps were taken to use it. So knowing that it takes a few people to arm and fire, for example, that could be very useful in helping other people defend against it by knowing that they have to disable a bunch of people who are using it. But as for creating their own or creating new ones, you need a gnome, because nobody else can make stuff like a gnome in Dragonlance. We talked on that a little bit before, but I would say don't allow them to have more than a couple of them, because it is a huge advantage, and the players should feel a little on the ropes in this. Right? If even if you give them like 10 of those things, the Red Dragon Army's got the numbers that they're eventually going to overwhelm them. So going into that, if you know that it's going to set up like a cool scene, nice, cool, that would be really great. But eventually, in my opinion, what that would do is set up a time where they would be using those things against the Red Dragon Army. The Red Dragon Army would swoop in, kill the people using it, and now they have cannons.
And now they have more.
Now they have more. Thanks for the extra 10 cannons. We only had
it was hard for us to make these. We only had like 3.
Yeah. Now we've got 13, or I guess 12 now. Thanks.
Yeah. It also begs the question. It almost seems like a weapon of terror more than anything. Yeah. Spreading flames, scaring people. It's not really a defensive, like that might light your own walls on fire more so than repel an invader. And because to me, when they rolled up in it, it seemed like it was more like a symbol. It was more like a spreading fire, and it was scary.
It's a dragon.
Yeah. Only thing can beat that is Lance.
Right.
All right, so we had a question about character builds regarding the Lunar Sorcerer. So for Jen's build, we added the Unearthed Arcana Imbuing Touch, which is a bonus that basically allows you to spend a sorcery point and imbue something. So it's a magic weapon for, is it a minute or is it 10 minutes?
I believe it's a minute.
Yeah, so it basically is the magic weapon spell, but it costs a sorcery point instead. I like it. I think it's good flavor. and it means that mages are even more dangerous.
And it let me do a cool thing where I was just like, go kill that ghost.
Right? I think it's great. I have that ability on my character in our Strixhaven game because I'm playing a superhero, and I have the ability to imbue any magic weapon I touch with the restriction that I have agreed with the DM. I can only do it on myself, so it has to be my fists, but I can punch for magic damage if I want to because I'm a goddamn
Prime
superhero.
fist. I mean, wrong system.
I love Kyle so much. And rule changes for free spells and lunar embodiment. So Jen and I were looking at this, and the difference between the lunar sorcerer or the lunar, is it lunar sorcerer? It's the lunar sorcery option.
It's the features of the lunar sorcery subclass.
The difference between Unearthed Arcana and the core book, so like the demo and the final version don't make any sense. So what we ended up doing, how was it written in Unearthed Arcana?
Okay, so Unearthed Arcana basically was like, there's the way it's phrased is that you get these spells at first, third, fifth, like every odd number level. You get 3 spells. One is linked to the crescent moon, one is linked to the full moon, one is linked to the new moon. Thank you. You get all of those, and you get a free use of whatever moon phase you're under. You get a free use of all of the spells in that category. So if you're at 5th level, you get 3 spells. Yeah, but like, so if I'm usually sitting on full moon because full moon spells are the better ones out of that entire table.
Generally
to use for free. You get shield and all of this stuff, but being at 5th level, before leveling up, I would get a free use of shield, I'd get a free use of moonbeam, and I'd get a free use of something else that I can't remember off the top of my head. And that's how it's written in the Unearthed Arcana, but they changed the phrasing just enough to be like, no, it's just the 1st level spell that you get a free use of.
Yeah, so it means that the other spells that you get are kind of useless by comparison. The only benefit is that they don't count toward the number of spells that you know for the day, which is great. Nice. That sounds fine.
It means I have a lot of spells, but I still only have a certain number of spell slots.
Yeah. And so the way that it works is you can spend a sorcery point to change moon phases, right? So in the new book it is, or in the published material, it is you may now cast 1 1st level spell from each lunar phase without spending a spell slot, provided your current phase is the same as the lunar spell phase. Once you cast the spell this way, you can't do so until after a long rest. We have just altered it so that it is you gain access to the column as bonus spell slots, like as bonus spells.
Yeah, the way in Unearthed Arcana, because that was the way I was doing it because I didn't have access to the published material and was not reading it correctly. So
and the way that it works in ours is that, for example, if Jen used the 1st level and the 5th level, but not the 3rd level, and she changed moon phases, those would still be burned out, but she'd have the 3rd level available. So it's basically a separate spell. It gives her a couple of extra spells, which could be very powerful. These spells are Magic and Dragonlance is supposed to be badass, so I'm fine with it. Every player who's playing a wizard wants to be Raceland Majer. Find ways in Dragonlance to make your players feel cool, and they'll reward you for it. That's basically my opinion, right? Like they'll reward you with a roleplay.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And now that we've come up to level 6, I have I think it's the waxing and waning feature, which is where as a bonus action I can spend a sorcery point to change moon phases. Before it had to be a long rest, but now I can change as a bonus action. I mean, there's still the rule that if I've burned out my free spells at those levels, then I still don't get them, even changing moon phases. But if I really need that 3rd level spell that I still have left, but I need the crescent moon and I've been sitting on full moon and I'm out of spell slots otherwise, but have a sorcery point or however it works, can just swap it over.
So that's what we changed there. Let's keep going. So Tyrone Slothrop, I don't know, either way, hey Tyrone, has asked a bunch of questions but can't be here tonight, so let's look through them. What's the thing behind Soth in the card deck? It was for fun. It was for fun and to foreshadow it and to keep Soth on people's radar so that they were thinking about him. You get a decent backstory in the crypt. It was added flavor. I didn't have him popping up anywhere else, but I wanted him to be on everybody's mind so that it wasn't just a suddenly Dracula appears. You want to foreshadow those things, and it was just a little cute way to do it. Rookledust Inventions. Isn't Peak Gnome already achieved with the Gnome Flinger? Nay, you can fling many gnomes and you can also burn them. She feels like a half-baked Q from James Bond. Absolutely. If I had written this module, I probably wouldn't have written that section, but it's in the module, so we ran it. A little bit of forced add-on. Yep, I have nothing to add to that. She's fine. She's fine.
You are correct.
You are correct.
Yes.
You win a no prize. Here you go. Straight from Stanley.
Good job.
It's autographed.
Good job.
Wheel Watch Outpost. Is there any situation that doesn't result in mass combat? Yeah, probably. Like, it does feel like it is designed to not be espionage based. I think you could absolutely solid snake it. You could definitely go in
without combat.
We
did
did a
the first
chunk,
part.
but I mean that is gonna be some very lucky rolls, especially when you start to get to the people in the bunker.
And at a tabletop setting too, it'll be a little bit easier, I think, because like you've got so many more sessions to do it. And like whereas like this, it's that would have been a lot of sessions to do it, I think, full on espionage, and would also have left a lot of people out, I think.
The biggest problem with the slow action is that the whole thing is you're supposed to have like Raven's troops show up and help you. They're a mile away, and even assuming that they have horses, that's 18 rounds of combat away, assuming that the horses can do about a 3-minute mile, exactly. If they don't have horses, then you're assuming that they can do a 6-minute mile in armor. Sure, why not? It's D&D. That's 30 rounds of no, that's not 30 rounds of combat. That's 60 rounds of combat. Just don't use the winch rolls. You'll be fine.
There we go. Problem solved. Both
Come
problems
at me in the
that weren't
comments.
problems.
Make problems for yourself. I think it's good if you have a big fight, but I like that it starts espionage and you get a bunch of stuff taken care of. You whittle down some of the troops and then everything goes wrong. That's my favorite, where it's like, things are going great. Yeah. Why'd you have to say that? Weet.
And I mean, if your players are being super murder hobo-y, and they come across those sleeping knights in a room, they might do something that takes out a lot of them.
Well,
right?
Super murder hobo-y group ain't gonna get that far. They're gonna charge, and they're gonna get caught immediately, and it's gonna be this huge fight in the courtyard. And that's part of why I know in character
roguey and murder hobo-y.
Yeah, so. That's true. That's true. That's part of why I know it went against the plan, and that some people didn't like that. But having kind of like 3 little groups, like the group with the spellcasters, the elf and the kender, and then like the 2 fighters, that worked like really well.
Wait.
And
it totally did. It wasn't the fact that
I wasn't upset that the plan was going wrong. I was going how you guys are changing when your one party member is just not.
It was the not having that plan to start and then not sticking with the plan.
Right? It was just it was like you're going off the plan, and when your other person, someone's not
because I thought about the plant growth idea, and I had to base everything around that. I'm sorry.
That's great. That was great. It was fun. It was hilarious.
It worked out. It's fine.
All right. So some other questions.
Did we successfully split the party though?
We did. I think we did.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Godfrey can do that all day.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear which members of the party can do the splits. Any views from the community on Warriors of Krynn versus the Fray? The Fray is great. Warriors of Krynn is expensive. I didn't pay for it. Chris, did you buy it? You bought Warriors of Krynn, didn't you? No? It's expensive, guys. And I haven't heard anything particularly great about it. I don't think that it is a good practice to have a game that relies on you buying $100 supplemental box for it. So I'm very glad that the module has good rules in the Fray and the combat encounter bonuses. I think that those work really well. I wouldn't probably get the board game personally.
On that note,
what is Warriors of Krynn?
It's a board game companion where all the combats for this are done in board game style, like a strategy game. What are you saying, Chris?
Yeah, on that note, does it tell you in the book, like, if they won this scenario, do this instead, or do this, or does, like, how much of an impact does it actually have on the module that you can see?
It replaces it. So, for example, if we were doing the, hold on one sec. So it only replaces the battlefield stuff, which is why I don't think it, I could be wrong. I have not played it, but I don't think that it really replaces enough that it's worth it as a standalone product. So with mass combat, if you're using Dragonlance Warriors of Krynn game, this is the scenario 4 sidebar. That's it. It basically turns it into a battle game. You know, so it's not for me personally, but you know, then again, I know a lot of people who really love the Game of Thrones board game. Like, I thought it was fun. It was a bit expensive for me back when I was in university, so I only played it at other people's houses. If you can afford it and you enjoy it, do it.
I got it. You want to play it?
Yeah, sure, we can play it, so long as you cannot use the training options, or the, what is it, the field maneuvers trick, which is that you can technically engage in combat. You know how you whenever you're in combat with another house, you can cycle guys back into your deck?
Yeah.
There's nothing in the rules that says that you actually have to do damage to the other person.
Correct.
So you can just generally walk up, shake hands, and regenerate people.
Oh, you know what? Never even thought.
One of my friends who lives in Vancouver now used to play it that way all the time. All right. All right, on mechanic side, really old version of Dragonlance would track moon phases. Are you simplifying this? And 5e simplifies it for us. Basically, the moon wizard can do whatever moon phase they want.
Yep. Up until level 6, it's long rest. You choose after you stop a long rest. Right. At level 6, you get to spend a sorcery points and do it as a bonus action. You can just change what moon phase you're attuned to.
The sense of impending war is well conveyed and really emphasized through Vogler. Thank you. For Calamand, it feels like we could have spent more time in the city exploring and building the vibe. Were there any choices made or thoughts from the players to reduce the time spent in the city? Does the book just say to get on with the missions? It mostly says to get on with the missions. I actually find that Calamand is kind of boring. Once you get done with settling the refugees outside of the walls and getting everything set up, I think that it's kind of imperative to get on with the missions, because you have to pay the city back. Like, you should feel like you're in debt. That's my thought. But I think there is a certain level of, okay, your players have only so many fucks in their field, and by the time Vogler's gone, their field is mostly barren. If you try to make them feel that same level of fucks about Calamand, it's not going to work. So it's very important in my mind to immediately put them to missions, because at the end of Vogler, they should feel like they were unable to make personal progress. Like they were powerless. Give them something that can empower them.
And yeah. I think it's also like a good kind of thing, because like you have to, in order for them to take the refugees, you have to help them out. So that already changes the dynamic immediately there. And like playing up on that by keeping it a little bit, the city a little bit removed, keeps the attachment to Vogler and the people of Vogler.
Interesting.
That you want to to help them out more. And I think that's I think it's a good way that's done.
There's also a decent amount of emotional distance as well. And those of you who aren't creative writing people might think that sounds like kind of fluffy, but remember that all the refugees are literally kept outside of Calaman's walls in the merchant housing. They're not invited into town. Only you are, because you're being used. You're being used as a resource in exchange for housing those people. It is up in the air whether or not Calaman would let them inside of the walls if the army showed up. That has not been 100% decided. Right? That's extra mouths to feed. That's so making Calaman seem like a complete safe haven. It might be a little too much comfort right off the bat, especially with war.
Yeah. Well, I also think that, like, especially with our group, we only had 2 people who were from Vogler, and so the rest of us already don't have a direct connection to Vogler. We develop one in that first little bit, but Calaman is like, okay, well, another city that I don't have a connection to. So it's, at least for Hazeal, she's just kind of like,
yeah. For Aurontiros and myself, it was like, okay, so did we just move on now? And I didn't feel like it was coerced or like we had to do it. I kind of felt like Kelly during session 0, during the recruiting for the game, was like, I need people to play heroes.
I need heroes.
The bard can be like, well, I guess my time here is done, tra-la-la-la, and like go south for the winter.
That's where that's like, where bards tend to end up.
Hazeal needed a reason to kind of stick around and do stuff, and being used is a good reason.
Also, it gives your players a chance to fuck them up, right? Like, you get a chance to take the fight back to them.
And for Aurontiros, it was like, you don't just use like prestidigitation for cooking, like Kelara, like teaching him like, no, like actually like cut these and let's like flavor the broth and let's do that, and like the helping the evacuation, seeing what they're capable of, kind of moved to a, if I can help, I have to kind of like mindset. So I never felt like it was there was any coercion there, but role playing, finding him a reason to stay felt really like solid, and I like
Hazel's reason to stay is mostly that she doesn't have anywhere else to go. So
same with Riz. Riz is like, cool, this is an adventure. Let's go help people.
Let's not forget the hug.
The hug is great. Yes.
The hug.
Nice. Backstory reveals his traumatic childhood of having no hugs.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Elves don't hug. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Physical contact?
Ugh.
Nice. All right. So last question that I have in the chat is from Drakeheart, or Drakheart, depending on how you pronounce it. Might have a few questions if it's allowed, but my main one is for DM Kelly. What are your thanks for remembering I have a name. I love when people leave YouTube comments that are like, the DM. I'm like, my name's literally right there, guys. Come on.
The DM.
Don't the DM.
No name. The man running the game.
Yes, the man. I'm the man.
Man behind the curtain, the wizard.
He's the man. We're fighting the man.
What are my highlights from the module as written? Sarlamir. Just the, like, not as a character, whatever, I could give or take him, but like the whole, like, let's go into a dungeon crypt and have to fight like possessed skeletons that don't want to fight us but can't help it because, you know, ancient magics are oh, I love that stuff. I love it because I love it when a villain is just like, bro, I'm stabbing you, but I don't have eyes, but if I did, they'd be crying. I love that stuff. I love it. It's great. Anytime the characters really sink their teeth into the roleplay, like that's wonderful. This is a very good module so far. I'd say that it's not quite as good as Wild Beyond the Witchlight, but it is up there. I've really been enjoying this, and I can't wait to see where it goes. What story beats did I think were pretty awesome and are leaned into, and things that need reworking? There's some filler in this chapter, mainly the missions that are trying to get you accustomed to working for Calaman. You can cut them right out. You can send them directly at Wheel Watch Outpost immediately, if you want to, and then have like the cudgel returns or the mercenary army returns somewhere before that, or you can focus a lot of this down.
Maybe give them maybe the farm house though, just so that they have the opportunity to get the uniforms as a potential for a way they want, or some other sort of way to present that.
Alternatively, you could have them showing up at the end of the farmhouse when the mercenary company is taking care of it.
No, that works.
And then when you find out, then we have to go talk to the mercenaries, and and it really depends on like what your characters have done up to that. Like, look at the relationships your characters have developed and play accordingly. Like, have fun. So that's what I have for that. I really like this chapter, actually. Like the last 2 games that we've done were some of my favorite to run. Like the first few and then this, and I'm really glad because a lot of modules start very strong and then immediately like it's like pop that's gone, like if you left it like soda out, like
the bottom of the popcorn,
goes flat, right? And you're just like, oh, the flavor's gone. But no, it feels like there's natural peaks and valleys here, and I'm fine with it being a little slow one game because I know it's going to come back, and that's a really good module if it's written that way. You can't always have like top tier gaming every session, but so far it's always been pretty good, and I'm okay with that. And then any last questions that we had what about y'all? What were your favorite things about this chapter, and anything that you are looking forward to or want help with or need extra work on? Because I finished the Kender feat. It is available on our Patreon Discord, in our Patreon channels, for any patron level right now, and I'll be publishing it to our wiki sometime this week once I just finish the verbing on that. But it does have a D100 list for things that you pull out of your Kender sack, which, you know what? Why don't you guys roll a D100 right now to find out what you pull out of the Kender sack?
What? You guys are reaching in my sack?
You're reaching into her sack.
Wow, this is...
Yep.
Hey,
this is spacious.
Rizira wouldn't care. She'd be happy to share.
It's true.
Right.
8.
An
99.
8? Well, Godfrey, you happen to reach into that sack and pull out a small wheel of cheese that smells of lemon.
Ooh.
Delicious.
95.
So,
Wait.
Cal, reaching in, you got a 99?
Yeah.
You have a working boomerang that works even when it shouldn't and does 1d6 bludgeoning.
Works even when it shouldn't.
Like, even when it shouldn't come back, it still does.
Nice.
I'm
got a
gonna
4.
change that to returns.
I also rolled 8, so I'm gonna re-roll.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I got 95 from
Yes.
Rizira. Rizira, you have a pound of
Grab
assorted
me.
colors, shapes, and kinds of dice.
Ooh.
Seeing Kelara and Godfrey could do a
nice.
fondue with lemon cheese.
It's true. Hazeal, would you roll?
4.
4. Well, that is a compass that points to the east, but otherwise functions normally.
Excellent. I do enjoy knowing where east is.
Right?
Yep.
It's great. And Christine, what'd you reroll?
46.
46. You have a poison ring full of white sugar.
Nice.
Say that
My
again.
baking ring.
A
A
poison.
poison
Exactly
ring,
what
like a
she
ring with a
needs.
poison capsule. But it's
Yeah.
full of white sugar.
sugar. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
Alright.
my little stash for when I have
It's
a, like,
emergency
urgent
chef
need for
sugar.
a teacup.
Yeah.
Like a
Absolutely.
lemon tea.
And I will
Little
roll
bit
for
sugar.
myself. I rolled
The only
30.
problem is everything you pull
For
out from the
Derek.
sack only
Roll
lasts
for
an
Derek.
hour.
Oh, I'll roll for Derek. Hold on, I'll roll for Derek. So Derek got a 67, which is a short poem about the beauty and wonder of ants.
Nice.
Everybody,
What about uncles?
I'm gonna write that
You think
A
you
short
should?
Oh my
poem.
god, I can't wait.
about the beauty and wonder of ants.
Of ants, yeah. Everyone, please. I think my favorite is. Robin, did you look through all of them?
Has this been updated since the one you sent me ages ago?
This is the brand new one that was finished today with the final updates.
Ooh, then I probably haven't actually like fully looked at the final updates. No, because
My favorite.
I have my other one.
My favorite is 87.
Let me look. I am. Oh yes! Oh yes!
It's pretty great. So I hope that should I share that with the audience, or should that come up in play?
Yes.
So
I mean, if it's on the list, then might as well share it.
okay.
Yeah.
So it is a note written in Kenderspeak that says, "Sorry, I borrowed this item. Love, Uncle Tass."
Oh, that's awesome.
So
Yes,
you
I
have an
want
item that
to
was stolen from your
re-get that.
stolen items.
I
Yep.
love how it doesn't say what the item is.
I know.
So
It just says I borrowed this item. It's great.
Yeah.
Also, everybody, there, Robin, do me a
Yes?
favor and
Mhm.
and check 84 and
Oh my god.
and then check 90. It's so good. There are so many in jokes and Dork Tales jokes inside of here too. So you definitely want to check this out. Join the Patreon. And if not, check the wiki in a couple of days. But thank you very much for your patience on
I
this.
want to roll number 47.
What's number 47?
So
my-
a journal with
With my initials on the cover, full of strange prescient notes
Yup.
about the characters. Yeah,
Yup.
fair.
Whose journal?
Mine.
yeah.
Oh,
Literally
so it's a
Kelly's
fourth
journal.
wall breaking.
Yep, it's a fourth wall breaking.
There are a couple of
Yeah.
floral. 57, the ceramic camping mug that says "I heart Solus" is pretty good too. All right. Does anybody have anything they want to weigh in on about the game so far, or anything, and favorites, least favorites, or are we pretty good? Because we did talk a lot tonight.
I think we're good.
You think you're good, Riz?
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
I'm very pleased with the. I mean, my favorite part was getting down to 1 hit point and still being able to attack Riz.
So good. I did one last minor rules change inside of the system, and that is it's very hard to get Solamnic armor. So I bequeathed Sarlamir's armor. That's not in the game as is, but I was like, screw it. Godfrey needs some freaking armor. So
Does
once
he though?
do you want to be a knight?
Yes, he does.
Don't like the problem is that like becoming a knight is actually such a pain in the butt in the lore, because you have to do a quest and you have to do this, like it's a big pain in the butt. So trying to find ways to make it more fun for a stream and more fun for Chris to play, that won't be like, and you guys are level 11, you are fighting the Dragon Queen, and if you beat the Dragon Queen, you're a knight.
That's
You're
what
like,
it
really?
takes.
That's what it
Wow.
takes. Now I can see why there aren't very many knights.
You got to wait for a world-ending cataclysm to
You know,
come
I blame-
around and not die.
I blame Lord Soth. I mean, like
I blame the school
he
system.
just like set the bar. He like screwed up so bad
He
that
lowered
they
the
had to
bar.
put the bar way
Oh,
up
no.
here to make
Yeah.
sure that never happens again.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So if anybody has anything else they want to say, if not, then I guess that's going to be it from us. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of How to Run Chapter 4. We'll do another one of these after Chapter 5. And we'll see you next week here at Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragonqueen. But before we go, a big shout out to Bookwyrm Games for being our sponsor again tonight. Definitely go to questchest.info, where you can learn about their new upcoming Kickstarter and their fantastic quest chests, which are basically like gaming nights in a box, system agnostic, that can be ran from everything from 5th edition to Pathfinder to whatever you want, really. Full of handouts and like maps and real honest to God actors voicing parts of them that you might have heard in like real productions, guys. They're fantastic. These are great products, and they can keep your table busy for 1 to 4 sessions easily. Definitely go to questchest.info right now to check them out. If enough of you get them, we might have a very special Dork Tales one coming that will run on the channel, which would be pretty fantastic. They also are coming out with a Kickstarter soon where it's going to be, I think it's about a couple $100, but you get 5 of these things. They're fantastic. I think you're really going to like them. And don't forget to use code DorkTales to save 10% off of your orders, because you're worth it. And if enough of you do it, that will, you know, convince Bookwyrm to stay with us as we get more and more of these shiny dice. I love them.
What are those?
These are the Amethyst D10s.
Oh,
right. The mage dice.
So pretty.
This looks
So
great.
pretty.
I just got a
So
success.
magical.
So magical. And also what is magical, so thank you, Bookwyrm Games. What else is magical is you, those of you who are on our Patreon, because this stream is a full-time job. It really helps when I have members of the Patreon who are so supportive. For as little as $5 a month, you get access to a minimum of 4 to sometimes 6 extra games a month. Everything from Jen's Technocracy game to Robin's upcoming Radiant Citadel game to my once a month Chronicles of Darkness game to a behind the scenes podcast. There's tons of stuff. I know I missed a game. I missed Strixhaven, which runs twice a month. There's so much going on the Patreon, and it directly supports the channel. So for as little as would take to get, I don't know, maybe a cup of coffee. Cup of coffee is more expensive than the Patreon these days. You can gain access to these perks and know that you're helping a small stream survive. Consider it and join the ranks of our amazing patrons like Jade, the maker of monsters, our world building producer. You can also join my mom, the divine producer Jan, and my stepdad Bob, because they don't know what that tier means, but I think they're having fun there. That's good. You can also join Bricarius, our fun, evil Funkle, who is our demonic producer. You can join Tammy, the Forever Cleric, the wizard of the Patreon. And you can join the High Council of the Patreon, which includes Terran, the Traveler, Buddy, Trizelta, Amberthist, Cubby Gummy, Raven with Baubles, Karasha Urquhart, Drew Thompson, Sergio, Chef Aladeth, Larouk, Sorcerer Sanguine, and Mike Baxter. If you want to join the likes of them, be sure to join up. And for all of you who are on the Patreon, stuck with us over the last few months and are helping us build up, quick reminder, we're only 7 patrons away from adding a once-a-month Star Trek Adventures game ran by our very own Bunny Hearted. Only 7 people of any tier level. So if you're not on the Patreon, consider it. Be great to have you there. At the very least, because seeing those numbers go up makes me happy. I hope you take a look at it. And we'll see you next time here on Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Good night, everybody.